Hi everybody, I'm Chef KenDad. Welcome to my new YouTube channel, Cooking with Chef KenDad. Today we're going to start the entire series with cheesecake. It is my favorite dessert. I don't think there's anything that anybody can make at home for guests, for friends, for relatives, for yourself better than a homemade cheesecake. Something important I want you to do is these three ingredients have to be set out for 3 hours to reach room temperature. Philadelphia brand cream cheese is the cream cheese I recommend. You can use a less expensive off-brand, it'll still work. But Philadelphia gives it that flavor that I have found is superb. Sour cream, as long as it's fresh, I haven't found much of a difference in any brand. So save a little money, but get a good fresh off-brand. Butter, I am picky. It's a little more expensive, but I use Amish hand-rolled butter. You can use less expensive butter, whatever butter you like, but it all has to be out for 3 hours at room temperature. And now we're back. Through the magic of editing, 3 hours has passed. We're going to take our cream cheese, set it aside, our salted hand-rolled butter from Walnut Creek, and our sour cream. In addition, we're going to need 2 cups of granulated sugar. I use a little bit more because I like it a little bit sweeter. We'll be using real strawberries. We'll be using vanilla flavoring right here. This is the king for cheesecake. If you have vanilla flavoring and nothing else, you'll have a great cheesecake. I like to use a little bit of orange extract and lemon extract as well. We're going to use whipped cream for a topping, and we're going to use chocolate sauce as a topping. And finally, we're going to use a strawberry glaze, and you'll see how we mix that throughout. This makes a big difference. And there you have it. That's all we need to make a fantastic cheesecake. Okay, for our first step, we're going to start with 2 pounds of cream cheese. Now, another thing I like about Philadelphia is they mark it for half pounds. So, if it's a 3-pound package, boom, there's 2 pounds left over right there. It opens easily, drops out easily. Take your wooden spoon, start mashing it up. If this was cold, you'd never be able to do it this easily. Okay, once we have that all mixed up, remember, you don't want it watery, you want it creamy. We're going to add 2/3 of a cup of sour cream. This is where your 1 cup measure comes in handy, because it's easier to see where the 2/3 measuring line is. If you're not exact, it's quite all right. 2/3 of a cup of sour cream. Set that aside, and we're going to mix this for a couple minutes. Okay, now we're going to add sugar. And I know I told you 2 cups earlier. I was wrong. It's only 1 cup. You'll add 2 teaspoons to the graham crackers. We'll go over that later. So we're just going to add 1 cup of sugar now. Now remember, when you're blending, don't over mix. It causes too much air to get in the mixture. So we're going to add a pinch and then 2 pinches of salt. We're going to use our vanilla flavoring. We're going to add about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, which is that much. You can measure or do it by hand. Remember, cooking is art, baking is science. This is our orange extract, and I never even opened it yet. It's brand new. There we go. We're going to use just 3 drops. Whoa, looks like 4. Ain't going to hurt us a bit. Now we're going to add lemon. Again, 3 drops. And we'll call that a drop. Back to blending. Now, blend it easily so it doesn't splatter, and we're just going to stir this for a couple minutes. Now we add 4 eggs, lightly beaten. These eggs should also be at room temperature. That's 1. That's 2. I advise not putting shells in there. 3. And for the fancy part, 4. Whip them lightly. You just want them mixed. You don't want it overbeaten. You don't want it to be too frothy. You just want it, it's not even going to be whipped that long. And that's about it right there. All right, now, this is the part that can either make or break a good cheesecake. The difference between tasty, good, and great. When we add the eggs, we have to fold them. You want to add them lightly. Stir them in as you go. And now we'll mix gently until everything is together. If you over mix when you're doing this, you'll definitely get too much air in because the air will be pulled in by the eggs while it's mixing with the cream cheese. If we fold it slowly, you'll see it start to take on a little bit of a yellow hue. There's still lumps in it, which is good. And we don't see any large air bubbles. Now, that's going to be it for our cream cheese center filling. Most recipes will tell you to make the crust first. I have found if you make this first and let it sit, any residual air bubbles have time to escape before we give it a water bath. So now we're going to move on to the graham cracker crust. Okay, we're going to use 2 of these bad babies in here. We're going to put it in like that. We're going to cover it, and then we're going to... Okay, now we're going to need 7 tablespoons of melted butter. This is how much I put in the microwave. I melt it up slowly. I do it 15 seconds at a time until it reaches just melted. There'll still be pieces of butter in there, solid pieces. You can stir them up and they'll finish melting. Okay, as you can see, there are still some chunks in there, but they're melting in just nicely. And that's not hot, it's not cold, it's just melted. Perfect. Now that we've melted the butter, we're going to make the graham cracker crust. This is a special tool handed down to me by my grandmother many, many years ago. What it is for is when I pour the graham cracker crust, it filters out the paper that's in there. Either that or I'm lying, I never put paper in, it was a joke. Boom, baby. Using a blender to grind up the graham crackers is the best way to go. It's a very fine mix. But you want to go through it with your fingers just to see if there's any big chunks that got missed. And if there are, just grind them up. Now, we've got that in there. We're going to add 7 tablespoons of melted butter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, now, using a spoon, we're going to mix that butter in with it. We want it to be dry mix. You don't want it too wet, because if it's too wet, when you cook it, it'll leak out into the pan. If you can see how it's clumping up into little balls, that's actually what you want. You don't want a solid single ball of like a bread ball. You don't want a liquid, and you don't want it to stay floury. Now watch what we do here. Pinch it, and look how it stays together. That's perfect. And that's how we're going to make our graham cracker crust. At this point, you have to make a decision of how you want your crust to be. This is no sugar. This is just plain graham cracker. You can add 2 teaspoons of brown sugar or white sugar. I prefer to add sugar. I like mine to be a little bit sweeter. So I'm going to add 1, 2, and a smidge more. Now, mix it with your hand. Just get the mix all the way through. And we still have the same kind of graham cracker crust we had before. It holds together. And that's what we're going to make now. Alright, now we're going to make the graham cracker crust. This is a spring-form pan. As you can see, it has a little bit of a ridge that catches in the bottom of the spring load. So when it's closed, it locks in place. Remember, it is not waterproof. So I'm going to show you what to do later when we give it a water bath. There's no necessary prep needed when making the graham cracker crust. And however much you use is your own preference, how much you like up the sides. I'm going to start with about half. Move it around and just start pressing it into place. Just tapping it lightly. Just forming it. Now I'm just going to dump the rest in. Whoa, I missed. There we go. So we're going to move it around, and now we're going to move it up the sides just a little bit. Just so that when it's cut, there'll be a little bit of graham cracker crust on the edges. Nothing great. You can go up the sides further if you like. The further up you go, the more graham cracker you're going to need, the more butter you're going to need. It usually doesn't hold above a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, but it's something you can play with until you get it right. Now, as you can see, I use my knuckles, my fingertips, anything you want. You can use a spoon, whatever you want to do. But once you get the sides up to where you want them and the bottom is solid, it's perfect. Now we're coming into the home stretch. Preheat your oven to 325 degrees. And we're going to have to make a aluminum foil plastic wrap coat to put around the spring pan to keep the water out so we can do a water bath heat. My favorite way to cook a cheesecake is in a hot water bath. The bottom of a spring pan is not sealed to be waterproof, and it's done that way on purpose so the side can separate from the bottom. But we have to keep the water out somehow. So I'm going to show you how to make a water bath protective coat. Start with tin foil. Doesn't have to be a specific tin foil. You're going to want 2 sheets, about 2 feet long roughly. What you're going to do is start the edges together and fold them over. You'll fold them again, and then one more time. Once you've got that last fold, fold that one in half, right down the middle. And what we're doing is we're almost making a waterproof seal. Most times, this works, but we don't want to rely on most times. So what we do now is we give an interior coating of plastic wrap. We know the plastic wrap is waterproof. So we'll put, just like the tin foil, 2 pieces. One there. One there. Now, we've got that all laid out. Take our crust, put it on top. And all we're going to do is bring it up to the edge. We're not folding it over into the pan. We're just bringing it up. The tin foil is, in essence, just holding the plastic up to keep the water from getting inside. And that's going to be perfect right there for a water bath. Now, We want to put strawberry into this one, at least I do. So we're going to put strawberry into it. Take whole strawberries, just cut off the green tops, separate them, and using a knife, this is made for fruit, chop them up into small pieces. When you're doing this, always keep your fingers away from the bottom of the blade and keep chopping until they're in very, very small pieces. You can do this in a blender too, but I don't want to dirty my blender just for something I can cut by hand. And we're just going to keep chopping these till we get them into small little pieces. Now that we're done, it's almost a mush of strawberries. They're going to be mixed in with the cheesecake. And this is where we're going to use our gel. Now comes the fun part. Our cheesecake mixture has been sitting. So we're going to spoon in about half, maybe a little less. Get it set all the way around. A little bit more. All the way around. Now, we're going to be using a fork. And these are used for corn. They're corn holders. You can use toothpicks as well. Take some of your strawberry you've chopped up. Move it around a little bit. Not much. Just enough to cover it a little bit. And the strawberry glaze we had earlier. Throw it in clumps everywhere. Don't spread it. Just throw it in clumps. 4 or 5 is usually enough. Use your fork or your corn holder and swirl it. Try not to scrape the bottom. In fact, don't scrape the bottom. You don't want to scrape through the graham cracker crust bottom while you're doing this. But do it until there's really no solid big chunks of the strawberry glaze. If you like a little more decoration, like I think I could use a little bit more, I'm going to add just a little bit more to the outside edge. Whoa, a lot more it looks like. And this strawberry is going to be delicious. These fresh strawberries taste great. I was eating them earlier. And that's going to be good enough right there. If you feel like it and you want to, add a couple more strawberries right over the top of that. Now, add the remaining portion of cheesecake filling. Add all of it. Once I get to this point, I could offer for someone to lick the bowl, but I don't want them to. So I'm going to use a rubber spatula to get every last little bit off, because this is a cheesecake, not a bowl of pudding. As you can see, there is a lot more in there. A lot to go. Now, I'll let them fight over that. Going back to our spoon again, we're going to cover the top. Let that sink into the bottom a little bit. And repeat. Boom. More strawberry. Now I'm putting a little more on the top because presentation and how it looks, this is what you're going to see. A little more glaze. Now you can do whatever you want. You can add more, you can add less. The more you make it, the more you realize how you like it. You can swirl it in circles. You can cross hatch it. You can move it around however you want. And I'm just going to take the last of the strawberry, put it around it. And now there's one more step to go. We're going to put it in a water bath next. And after the water bath, we'll let it sit for a while. And now for the water bath. Put your cheesecake into a pan that will hold water about an inch deep. That's all you need. Boil 3 or 4 cups of water, preheated, and fill the pan. Now, even though we have the oven set for 325, because it's open like this, the water will never get above 212 degrees. And that's what we want to cook it at. The purpose of the water bath is to provide moisture around the cake so it cooks into it. You can cook it without a water bath as well. It can turn brown, dried out, cracked, separate. Some diehard cheesecake fans, that's how they do it. This is how Chef KenDad does it. So now that that's ready, we can see we have our rack in the middle of the oven. We're going to take our water bath, just like that, for 1.5 hours to 1 hour and 45 minutes. And we'll see you then. All right, as you can see, there's only 17 minutes left. Let's see how we're looking. There it sits. I'll jiggle the oven a little bit for you. And you can see it's like a little bit of jello. It's setting up perfectly. Now you can see that the timer's gone off. And the cheesecake is done. You can see it's wobbly. What we're going to do is, with the oven off, leave it open that far. Let it cool for another 1 hour. By then it'll be room temperature. You don't want to take it out too quick because it could dry and crack. We want it to be nice and moist. So that's what we're going to do, is leave it there for 1 hour. Okay, it's been an hour since we turned off the oven and let it just sit. Let's see what we have. Oh, that looks beautiful. So we're going to set that aside. Set it with a towel. Now, what we'll do is we'll cover it loosely with tin foil. We don't tuck it on. We shape it. But that's about it. We'll put it in the fridge overnight. In the morning, we'll come back, we'll take the spring pan off, and we're going to have a cheesecake to die for. Okay, we've let it sit overnight, taken it out of the fridge, brought it into the house. I've let it sit for about 10 minutes before we begin. Now, what you're going to want to do is take a cake knife or a spatula, something that's rounded on the tip, and just simply go around the cake to separate it from the side. Now, open the spring foam. Oh, open it all the way. And lift right off. And look at that. That is a beautiful cheesecake. We got crust on the side. You can see the swirling all throughout. Now, let's cut a piece. One, two, using our pie scoop, we're going to get underneath it and lift. Now if you look, you can see the strawberry throughout, went down inside of it, and nice and swirled. And there's our cake. Now, we're going to top it with a couple of things. Whatever you top it with is your decision. Whatever you want to use. You can use fresh strawberries. You can use a little bit of whipped cream. I like just a little bit of whipped cream to decorate it up a little bit. Give it a nice little shot. We're going to take a strawberry. Couple on top. And strawberry and chocolate. What a mix. Actually, anything on chocolate, what a mix. And there you have it. A delicious strawberry cheesecake made by Chef Ken Dad. Let's take a bite. That is so good. You make it like I showed you, you're going to be happy. Your guests are going to be happy. Everybody's going to love it. If you have young ones that want to learn how to cook, want to learn the basics, know how to do things, follow me at OutSchool at Chef Ken Dad. Go to my website, ChefKenDad.INFO, and it will show you how to get into my OutSchool teaching site. Or if you have any questions, you want to email me, ChefKenDad at ChefKenDad.com. Hey, don't forget to feed your camera person.